I brought intentionally an icon of St. Stephen, the first martyr. That is, his story is told in the Acts of the Apostles. He is stoned to death. I brought an icon of Saint Fortuny. Who is Fortuny? According to the historical Christian church, Fortuny is a Samaritan woman at the well. Fortuny, who had been married 5 times, is recorded in the Gospel of John. And Jesus approaches her. She's married 5 times and she's living with a guy. That's even extraordinary for today. Can you imagine what it was like back then? She's probably going to get water at 12 noon because she was an outcast from everyone else around. And as I like to say, since I'm from Wyoming, she was looking for love in all the wrong places. But when Jesus approached her, he did so in humility, putting himself in a place of need. And by doing so, rather than approaching her as one in which he righteously could have done, he approached her with love, with care, with humility, with pastoral sensitivity. And he allowed her to become Fortuny, which means the enlightened one. She became a disciple of our Lord, following him all the way to Rome. And according to history, met a martyr's death along with her 5 daughters and 2 sons. And she was martyred by being thrown into a well. They lived in a world that was not Christian, but they were willing to give their lives. Martyrs means witness. A martyr is a witness. Out of the categories of saints, holy ones, with Jesus and people being connected with Jesus, many of them were killed because of what they spoke. But primarily their witness was their lifestyle, which was a daily lifestyle, not a Sunday lifestyle, a daily lifestyle. I'm going to stop right now at this point, but I'm going to ask Alina and Elena to come forward.
Romania became communist in 1947, and I was born in 1975, and I was 14 and a half when Ceausescu, the dictator, was killed. So until I was 14 and a half, I wasn't baptized. It was very hard to go to churches. I grew up in an orphanage in Romania, and it was a state-run orphanage, and church was in no way part of our life. However, we knew what was going on in the country. We knew that priests were arrested, people of faith were arrested and tortured. Everyone who was smart and trying to speak against the government was arrested and tortured. And basically, your best friend could sell you for a loaf of bread to the government. You were not allowed to practice your faith in any way. Churches were destroyed. Hundreds of year-old churches where they just bulldozed the churches and destroyed them. In the orphanage, we were not exposed to the faith at all. When the revolution happened in 1989, the church right away came into the orphanages. We had priests and we had a lot of beautiful volunteers coming from America. So when I became a Christian by the grace of God at 14 and a half, I went to a church and I was baptized, and my godmother taught me about the faith, and I learned how to pray, and I learned that, we have a Father in heaven, and his mother is our mother, and this life is not it. It's not at all. There is more than to life than what I've seen so far. I don't know if I'm capable to express in words the amount of hope we have received by being baptized and by being exposed to the life of faith, and to hear stories of saints who suffered like our people suffered. It brought a lot of healing, and being connected not just with the present Christians that we encountered the church kind of adopted us, but we felt connected with reading the life of the martyrs and realizing like, oh my gosh, like we are not the only ones going through these hard times, and people have always been tortured and martyred for their faith. And it became a little bit more normal than whatever we heard under communism and not having other examples before us. So for me, receiving the faith and receiving the Orthodox Christianity was literally life-giving, and it brought a lot of hope in my life, and it helped me to just keep going, and it helped me to connect with my Father in heaven and to just trust that my life will be okay. And so life-giving is the word for me.
How do you follow this? Alina's story is so inspiring. My dad was a career person, so part of the party. My mom was not part of the party. In fact, she was a believer, but kind of, once again, worshiping somewhere in the corner, so you do not get to be seen. And I think it leaked out there. So my dad was about to be arraigned and thrown into prison. He probably wouldn't have been killed, but he would have been in prison for many, many, many years because of family history. So we were saved by the bell. My dad had a stroke at 33 years of age. So because of the pressure and of those things happening and him finding out, and he had to flee the country. And the perestroika happened, all sorts of tumultuous things. So we moved to a different city. And it's interesting, in the new city, our new place, our new condo was in the same block as the oldest, most revered cathedral in Kursk, in a bigger city, the regional center. So 17th century masterpiece, a beautiful cathedral. So I would wake up to the church bells every morning, and I would go by it. So you could not even go by. And, as Orthodox Christians, we do sign of the cross a lot. So you could not be seen doing that. I cannot be seen doing the sign of a cross because what happens to my dad? Because there's literally spies everywhere. I mean, our phones were tapped. So when the culture and religion and everything that's good in this world was destroyed, people worshipped and people had faith, and it never went away. And it survived in families and survived underground. And when country finally opened up, I went by the same church, and I dared go into the cathedral, and I was petrified. And if you know, Orthodox Russian priests were very intimidating. So I was scared that I'm going to be yelled at, because that was the reality of life. People just betrayed you and yelled at you, and you were just constantly just abused everywhere. So it was the society where God and love, because God is love, does not rule. When you believe in social structures, then that's kind of what rules your life, right? So I went into the church and I was petrified. I think I fainted. So, and the babushkas and people, I was so scared, because I thought I'm a sinner and I cannot possibly go into the church. I didn't do my cross sign, going by it for 10 years straight. So, and I remember one of the very menacing priests, and they have the black robes and everything, especially if they're not serving liturgy. He came over and, helped me up, and I was scared to death. So, and he said, "What's going on?" So I said, "Well, I haven't been to church, and I haven't done the cross sign, and I haven't done this." And he's like, "Oh, you don't have to. You just pray. Just come here. You just pray. You don't worry about that." He's like, "God knows you. God sees you. God hears you. You just pray. Don't worry about it." So, and that was it. And that was the end of it. You know what? Life was beautiful. He never left me. So I'm still here.